I'm honored to be here today. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Al Freedman. I'm coming to you from the Chicago area today. And I am both a psychologist who specializes in working with families affected by rare disease and complex medical issues. And I'm also a dad. And I'm going to be sharing with you many personal reflections on 25 years of navigating the unique challenges faced by families like yours and mine, both as a parent uh, and as a professional. As Louise mentioned, I'm counseling families all over the country now because of COVID. My license is now good in 40 states out of the 50 in the United States, and I'm facilitating about a half a dozen support groups around the world for families affected by rare disease, in addition to consulting with many rare disease advocacy organizations like yours and industry partners as well. Today, I'm going to be sharing both professional and personal reflections on navigating this journey and the challenges associated with rare disease. On the left, this is my son, Jack. And Jack was diagnosed with a different rare disease called spinal muscular atrophy in 1995. And he was given 1 year to live in 1995. And thankfully, he didn't cooperate with the doctor's prognosis. Jack didn't live for 1 year, he lived for 26. And actually, it's a bittersweet day today, October 5th, 2021, is actually the day we said goodbye to Jack and the day he passed. So I think this is where he wants me to be today, is with all of you, sharing his story and the story of so many others who I've worked with along the way. Um, I have a PhD in psychology from the University of Wisconsin in Madison, a couple hours from here, but Professor Jack here is really the guy who's taught me what I need to know to be helpful to families like yours and families like mine. And on the right are other children with the same condition. I don't have many photographs professionally because my work is confidential as a psychologist, but our family conference I've had the privilege of working with our kids, our parents, our grandparents, siblings, and now many other rare disease advocacy organizations. So the photograph on the right is a symbol of the professional work I've done as Dr. Al, giving everyone a voice and a chance to be heard and to share their own stories. So I'm privileged to be here today to share both my personal and professional reflections on navigating the complex journey that is rare disease. My baby Jack was born on April 23rd, 1995, and he was a healthy 8.5 pound baby, born in Madison, Wisconsin, when I was finishing school. And we were just thrilled to have a baby and complaining like everybody else about not sleeping and stuff. And the first 6 months were smooth sailing. But when baby Jack went for his 6 month appointment at the pediatrician's in Wisconsin, the doctor noticed that he wasn't sitting up and rolling over. And within 4 days from that appointment, we were told that Jack was diagnosed with an untreatable and uncurable disease called spinal muscular atrophy, and that he wouldn't live past a year. So um, our experience quickly changed as parents, and I was traumatized, frankly, by that period of time. And the first kind of lesson I'm going to review today, I'm going to share with you 11 lessons I've learned along the way in navigating this journey. And the first lesson that I learned and that I experienced with many of the families I work with is the diagnostic process. And a rare disease diagnosis is a trauma. Um, it's that day it was election day 1995. We were in Philadelphia Children's Hospital, told that our son wouldn't live past a year, and that moment is seared into my soul and will be forever. You remember exactly where you are and how your life immediately gets changed, flipped upside down. I felt very disoriented. I felt very scared. I felt like I had been launched into the twilight zone, to this place that nobody else could understand. Um, my mind played tricks on me. A lot of times people ask me, Dr. Al, is it normal that I blank? The most common question I receive is it normal that I uh, have these symptoms? I can't sleep, or I can't eat, or I'm crying all the time, or I'm imagining scary things could happen to my family because this happened to my family. Um, the diagnostic experience can be a real trauma. In my case, I was um, driving 40 miles an hour on the right lane on the highway, thinking I'd get in a car accident. I was afraid to light the fireplace in the house we were living in. I thought I'd set a fire. I just thought if this terrible thing could happen out of nowhere, then something else could. My mind was playing tricks on me. And so my first lesson to share today is that the diagnosis for all of our families, that journey can be very, very traumatic. And the trauma can last for a while because it's so disorienting. And it was for me. This is baby Jack just a couple of weeks after his diagnosis. And I'm a much younger version of myself there all those years ago. This is 1995. And you can see the old Apple computer, the original one behind me. It's a dated picture. I was exhausted as I look at the picture. We don't have many pictures of this time. It wasn't a time to celebrate. But I was exhausted physically and emotionally and traumatized. But I look at this photograph and I see the look on Jack's face. He was just as happy as he could be, happy to be in Dad's lap, happy to get in his stroller and cruise around, and happy to live his life. He wasn't worried about a thing. So for me, moving from that place of trauma meant following my son's lead. And I did that for 26 years, and I'm still doing that by being here today. So the first point I'd like to make, the first lesson I learned along the way in navigating this journey, is that a rare disease is indeed a trauma. The second lesson I learned along the way, and continue to experience with many families I work with, is it's very hard for all of our families to live with uncertainty. I work with families affected by many, many rare diseases around the world, and this concept cuts across all rare diseases. There are many differences in terms of medical symptoms between the condition my son had and the condition that your families are challenged by. But we all live with a certain amount of uncertainty. And for me and families like mine, was how long will my child be here with me? For adults, how long will I live? Um, will this cold turn into something serious that will cause us to have to go to the hospital? I drove around for 25 years with a suitcase in my car with 3 days of clothes in it because I never knew when we'd end up in the intensive care unit. Now, uncertainty takes a different form. I'm working with families who are receiving treatments for their rare diseases, including my son's condition now has 3. And the uncertainty is different. Families are uncertain about which treatment to choose. It's a great problem to have a choice, but we all want to do right by our family members and want to make the right choices. And when treatment does happen, families are uncertain about whether it will work. If you're in a clinical trial, it could be the placebo. If it is an approved treatment, there's no history for that treatment and no cohort group. So families are anxious and uncertain about whether the treatment will last. So living with uncertainty is something that cuts across all rare diseases and is taking different shape now as treatments evolve. When my son Jack, reached his first birthday, we took very literally what the doctors told us. And there was nothing in the parenting books about how to have a birthday party for a child that wasn't expected to live more than another year. So we were living with a lot of uncertainty during this time. But again, baby Jack was growing and happy, and we followed his lead. And a social worker in the hospital said, yeah, I know you're uncertain about Jack's future at best, but if he didn't have SMA, you'd have a birthday party for him. So you should definitely have a birthday party for him. And we did. And it was a beautiful party. And we had to kind of coach our family members on how to handle that moment and to enjoy the moment with Jack as he got all the gifts and all the attention. It was a wonderful day, but we were experiencing a lot of uncertainty. Our families affected by rare disease experience uncertainty in the hospital too. This was obviously a long stay, as I see the get well cards in the background. Jack sometimes was in the hospital a week or 2 weeks or a month. But he came home 20 times from the intensive care unit and just that happy. And that's Nurse Chuck, one of our buddies in the hospital, and my never give up shirt that parents who have kids like mine have worn for years. Hospital brings about a lot of uncertainty, and every illness brings about uncertainty for our families. It's not an easy way to live. But again, I kept following Jack's lead, and that helped me to move through that place of uncertainty. That's what our families do. A third lesson that I learned along the way, and I still learn, is that hope breeds hope. When you're given an impossible situation, impossible news, and you don't know where to turn, hope is a scarce commodity, and the doctors left us with very little hope. The third lesson for today that I want to share with you is that um, when you hang around people who are hopeful, the hope breeds hope. And right away, I was searching for people who could give me a little bit of hope after Jack's diagnosis. A nurse at the Children's Hospital took a look at Jack and said, "He looks pretty good to me." Thought that was a pretty radical and hopeful statement after what we had heard the week before. And Nurse Claire was right. Jack was a little stronger than they thought he was when he was diagnosed. We're still friends with Nurse Claire all these years later for offering that hope to us. I met another family who had lost a baby to the same condition, baby named Charlie. And Charlie's mom wrote a letter in our newsletter offering hope and saying, even though Charlie only lived for a couple of years, he lived his life happily. And I have no regrets because of everything we did for him. And I really admired and respected his mom, Mary Lee, and I'm still friends with her for offering me the hope that you can live a meaningful life, even if it's a short life. And Jack had a necklace of Charlie's for years hanging on his wheelchair wherever he drove around. Um, the fact that Charlie's mom could walk and talk and chew gum at the same time gave me hope that I could come through the experience whole. Read a letter by this woman in our newsletter named June Price, who lived in Milwaukee. And June had the same condition Jack did. And she wrote a letter in our newsletter that I read shortly after his diagnosis that said, "Be sure to live each day as though your child will live and never give up on your child." I was diagnosed when I was 2, she said, and my parents were told I wouldn't live past 4. And when I turned 4, the doctor said I wouldn't live past 6. And when I made it to 6, they said I wouldn't live past 10. And my dad sat around waiting for me to die. And now I'm 54 and I have a job and I have friends and I have a partner and I have an apartment and I'm living a good life. And my dad's been gone 20 years. So please don't do what my dad did. Live every day as though your child will live. And this woman was a great support and gave me great hope when I was a young dad, so much so that we took Jack to see her from Madison to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was a long day for him. He's tired. He wasn't as excited by the end of that day. We only have that one picture, but it was a special day as June introduced us to her life and how she lived it so meaningfully. She lived into her 60s, and I'll always be grateful. These days, Dr. Al's the guy everybody else calls for advice, and Dr. Al called June. She was my coach when the going got tough, and I'll always be grateful for the hope that she gave me. So lesson number 3 for today is hope breeds hope. Fourth point I want to make is an obvious one. For all of us, everything begins with our families, and support from our families is really critical. And I often hear as a psychologist from a grandparent or uncle or a sister of somebody who's diagnosed or has a child who's diagnosed with a rare disease who wants to help because the family isn't ready to talk about it yet after a diagnosis. But the support of family and the rallying of family around a child or an adult with a rare disease is very, very important. And I've been blessed with a wonderful family and also a daughter. My daughter, Kara, was adopted from Korea when Jack was 5, and she gave us some additional hope. Siblings of kids with special needs and siblings of adults with special needs and rare disease have some wonderful open hearts, but many challenges. And now my daughter's all grown up and she's 23, and I'm very proud of her as she took a job with NORD, the National Organization of Rare Diseases. I'll see her next month at their conference where I'll be speaking. I thought she'd run as far away from the scene as she could after all she went through with her brother and losing her brother 2 years ago, but she's taken a step in. And there she is, all grown up now next to her brother. This is a bigger family picture of ours. And my extended family on my dad's side, my brother right behind Jack, and my parents next to my brother. My mom passed a year ago. My dad is still playing tennis at the age of 94. Jack's mom and I divorced some years ago, but we're still friends and we stick together in support of our daughter now. That this is a symbol of the extraordinary support that can come from a family and that should come from a family. Family matters. Lesson number 4. Navigating this journey is challenging, and it's really important for families like ours to receive support from community. Community strengthens and supports. There are many different types of communities that we receive support from, and many of my client families do as well. We have neighborhood communities, we have school communities, we have communities where we work, we have faith communities, and people in all communities want to help. They sometimes don't know how to help, and sometimes we need to give people direction about how to help. But when we do that, people come out in droves because they want to do what they can to help. Sometimes when people don't help in community around us, it's because they don't want to do the wrong thing. So instead of doing the wrong thing, they stay back and wait. So we sometimes need to give instructions to folks or say, here's how you can help us. Community strengthens and supports. A special type of community for our rare disease families, in addition to neighborhoods and schools and work and faith communities, are our rare disease communities. As you have your LGDA community here today, and that's why you're here. And there is strength in numbers. It's really important for our families to be connected, to have connections with each other, with the doctors who care for our family members and scientists who are studying our condition. It's very, very important for us to lean into our rare disease communities as a source of support. My own rare disease community is Cure SMA, and Cure SMA is, like, at this point, my extended family. When we have our conference, this is a photograph of the opening icebreaker at our conference, which historically has been a wheelchair race. This is like a family reunion to me. People, we've grown up together, our kids have grown up together, and we've been through a lot together. Our icebreaker includes a researcher, Dr. relay race where the children race against a famous doctor or researcher. And for 15 or 20 years, no doctor or researcher has ever won a race. The children always win, and they're always thrilled to have the spotlight and to celebrate being together as a community. It's a wonderful way for our families to be together. And we have about 3,000 people at our conference in June in Orlando this year. It was a wonderful experience. This is another symbol of the power of community and a symbol of my professional work within our community and now other rare disease communities. This is what we call our Kids Talk It Out group. And for many years, I have co-facilitated, along with my partner, Angela, who has SMA and is in the back right corner of that picture. Angela is a very gifted 4th grade teacher in Houston who teaches able-bodied kids from her wheelchair in a public school. Angela and I have co-facilitated this group 50 or 60 times over many years with younger children, adolescents, and adults, having the opportunity to talk to each other about the experience of having a rare disease. And it's an extraordinary opportunity for these children to be together, to share experiences, and to get advice from each other and from us. They always ask me, Dr. Al, how can we get our parents to stop worrying about us so much? The girls always ask for advice from each other about how to handle going to the middle school dance when you have a wheelchair. They give each other advice about how to handle adults who talk over their heads because there's an assumption made that they can't think for themselves because of a physical disability. So we have a wonderful time together at our conference as a community, and I'm privileged. I've learned so much from these children for so many years, and the gifts that they bring. Next to me in the back in the orange shirt is my daughter again, Carol, all grown up. She's a volunteer now, and she had as many siblings do, a little bit of a love-hate relationship with her brother Jack, but she's very sweet with all these kids who are like her brother Jack, and she misses her brother Jack. We have volunteers in the room to help us push wheelchairs, and they pick stuff off the floor if they drop it. They need to go to the restroom. This is a wonderful opportunity. Community strengthens and supports, and I feel so blessed to be a part of this community, and I hope you do too in your LGDA community. Those of us affected by rare disease need help, not only from friends and family, but from the healthcare system. We all need doctors and nurses, and families affected by rare disease need doctors and nurses and other healthcare professionals even more. Doctors and nurses are people too, and it's important for all of us to learn how to benefit from the knowledge that our healthcare providers can give us, to establish relationships that are a two-way street so that we can also teach our doctors and nurses how to help us. And we want to recognize as we're developing those relationships with our professionals that they're people too, and they have many stressors given the working conditions they're under in the healthcare system and the hospitals. They face their own challenges with their families. They face their own challenges with their work. Families like ours need to know, we know a lot about one rare disease. Our doctors need to know about lots of them. And there are now over 10,000 rare diseases that have been identified. So I've learned to go easy on the doctors because they're working under difficult conditions. And so are we, but we all want to be working together. And when we do, really wonderful things can happen when we develop these relationships. This is a symbol of special relationship my son had with his doctor, Dr. Bransema. John Bransema is a child neurologist in Philadelphia. And on his own time, on a Sunday afternoon, comes out to our community's events just to be with our community. And Jack loved Dr. Bransema, who was with him all the way up till the day he passed 2 years ago today, because this guy took the time on a Sunday afternoon just to pal around with him and to get his goodie bag and to do the walk. We call this the walk and roll. Dr. Bransema is a symbol, an example of wonderful professionals who help care for us and make a choice to get involved. We don't make that choice to have a rare disease, but these smart people could be doing a lot of other things and they choose to help us. This is Nurse Stacy, home care nurse, who took care of Jack for, I believe, 9 years at home, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 12-hour shifts overnight, 3 and 4 days a week without fail for 9 years. She never missed a shift. She's an example of a special nurse who took care of Jack and who was committed to taking care of him and really was an important part of the fabric of his life. Nurse Stacy, when it would come to the holidays, Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's, and I'd ask her, are you planning to work on Thanksgiving? Because she always worked on Thursday. I always remember her answer to that question the first time I asked. She said, well, Al, Jack can't take a holiday from SMA, so I don't think I should either. I'll be here on Thanksgiving. She was there happily with that smile on her face. My next lesson for today, lesson number 6, is doctors and nurses are people too, and they're a valuable part of our lives as we're navigating this unique journey. 7th point I'd like to highlight today is about scientific progress. Scientific progress, as a psychologist, I can tell you, brings new hope, and hope helps our mental health along. And along with that hope does come some new challenges. Drug approvals, treatment options can change the trajectory of a rare disease and a rare disease journey. And I'm seeing that up close and personal with our SMA community, as we now have 3 approved treatments. And if my son was born now, he'd be screened at birth and zapped with gene therapy and another therapy early on, and he could very well be walking. So there's a lot of hope in our community and a lot of hope in other communities as the scientific progress catches up with our family members and catches up with these rare diseases. And along with the new hope comes some challenges. This is a symbol of the hope. The same wheelchair race that I just showed you a few slides ago at our conference, this little girl participated in the wheelchair race without a wheelchair. A little girl who, before treatments existed for our condition, would definitely have a wheelchair or not even be alive at this point. So she got a rousing ovation as she was so excited to participate in the race, and of course won her race against the famous doctor that she raced against. The scientific progress is bringing us wonderful hope, and with that hope comes a lot of positive expectations, which help our mental health, and it's helping in our community. And the kids that I see in our Talk It Out group each year are getting stronger, and some of them don't need wheelchairs now. It's a beautiful change. This is another symbol of this hope, and also a symbol of some of the challenges that are coming. This is Shane. He's a friend of ours in Philadelphia area, and his parents, Chris and Regina. We befriended this family at a local event with our rare disease community. And unlike Jack, Shane was able to be screened early and to be treated with treatments for this condition. So this boy is now in kindergarten, and he's cruising around and he's doing really, really well. And his journey will be very different than Jack's. And this represents sort of the new generation and two generations of the same rare disease, and the importance of all of us within our community sticking together when the conditions change. As a psychologist, I can tell you that families who benefit from new treatments are hopeful, but families that I'm working with in my professional work who have treatments also experience a lot of psychological challenges and a lot of confusion and a lot of stressors. Because baby Shane here, his parents don't have history to work with. There aren't 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds who have the same treatment as their son does. So they're asking themselves, as many families are, will this treatment last? Will it be durable? And how will I know what Shane's going to be, how he's going to be doing when he's 10 or 15 or 20 years old, because this treatment is only 4 years old? There's a lot of uncertainty. There's also, in my experience as a psychologist, survivor's guilt. Some of our families feel awkward about the fact that their children benefited from the treatment and families like mine didn't. So families are asking themselves, where do I fit in the community? Is there a place in the community for me? And and do I need to be part of this club if my child got treatment and is doing okay and doesn't have symptoms? So there's some complex dynamics that are going on, and also the challenge of access to treatments. The families who have access in some countries and not others. In clinical trials, there are placebo groups. So there are haves and have-nots, and the complex challenges that come within a rare disease community, I'm also seeing in my professional work and in my consultation work with industry partners and rare disease advocacy groups. But all in all, these are wonderful problems to have as treatments are emerging and catching up with the diseases. So that is our seventh lesson for today. Scientific progress brings new hope and new challenges. The eighth lesson to share with you today is that mental health is important too. Of course, I'm a psychologist, so I believe in mental health, and that is a focus of this webinar today, is mental health. And as a mental health professional, it's wonderful to see it, new attention. A light is shining on mental health, I think a lot because of COVID and the importance of mental health. Mental health lags behind, especially in rare disease. The attention to mental health lags behind the attention to medical needs and physical health for obvious reasons. I can tell you at a personal level, for 26 years, I didn't have time to talk about how I felt about my son's situation because I was busy, frankly, just doing what I could to keep him alive all those years. I was busy worrying about if the ventilator was charged up and whether the van lift worked and the tires in the van were okay, and if a nurse was going to come for the night shift, because if no nurse came, I was the nurse. So the focus has to be on keeping our family members safe first. And because of that, when I went to my first conference for our rare disease, there were no mental health workshops or family support workshops. They were all medical workshops, how to deal with a ventilator and a feeding tube and a wheelchair. And I'm proud over the years, for 20 years, I've helped to build the program that our community now has in support of the mental health needs of our families. but it takes time, and it is important to pay attention to the mental health of our family members as well. There are different ways to pay attention to our mental health, and again, the power of the groups. I'm not able to show photographs of my clients because of the confidential nature of my work. This is, again, one of the groups that I facilitated at our conference for the kids to have a voice, to share their experiences, to be connected with others who are sharing their experiences is a very powerful way to help our rare disease families have a voice. I'm facilitating 5 or 6 rare disease support groups now around the world with many adults as well as children. And it's important for all of us to have support, to have community support, and to be able to pay attention to how we feel about the challenges that we face. These couple of photographs are a symbol of the importance of paying attention to our mental health as well as our physical health. That's the 8th lesson I want to share with you today. And as a mental health practitioner and as a dad, this is where I really lived and work, and where I continue to work in this area of developing mental health programming to help support the needs of our rare disease individuals and families. It's isolating to have a rare disease, and it's important for people to have support and for all of us to have connection. Ninth lesson I want to share as far as how we navigate this impossible journey is to remind you that anything is possible, that you can have a meaningful life, you can have a fulfilling life, even with all of the major challenges that come with a rare disease. When my son was diagnosed in 1995, we were told by the doctors all the things that Jack wouldn't be able to do, all the things that would not be possible, that Jack would not be able to sit up, he would not be able to walk, he would not be able to eat, swallow food safely, that when he got a cold, he wouldn't be able to breathe. And the doctors were not wrong about all the vulnerabilities that my son had throughout his life. But doctors don't see patients when they're well. They see them when they're sick a lot of the time. And it's our families, our parents and family members who see our patients when they're well and see what is possible. We experience what is possible, and we sometimes tell the doctors and teach the doctors what is possible. Also, in terms of treatments, it was really a pipe dream all those years ago that any treatment would be available for the condition my son had. I like to say now that we've gone from the Flintstones to the Jetsons, and now there are 3 approved treatments, and our babies are actually walking instead of using wheelchairs. So anything is possible, and we are capable of many more things than we might realize when our rare disease journey begins. This is a symbol of anything is possible, a small symbol of anything is possible with Jack. This is high school, and Jack couldn't move a computer mouse. He couldn't move his arms and legs and his fingers very much. He had just enough movement in his fingers to operate a switch in his power wheelchair. Here he's sitting in his manual wheelchair, very still, and there's a camera mounted on the bottom of that pad that's got this keyboard on it, and that camera is aiming at his left eye. And with his left eye as a mouse, my son was able to make what seemed to be impossible possible. This is advanced math, I think trigonometry in high school. And I couldn't help him with his homework. It was too hard for me to do this myself. But Jack had his Texas Instruments calculator there on the screen. The camera read his eye movement, and he banged out his math homework and all of his high school work and graduated from high school and earned the ability to have 2 part-time jobs using this technology. And he had 3,000 Facebook friends. He was all over the internet, all over the emails, all over Facebook, all over his homework. And he was doing market research and banging out Excel spreadsheets in a couple of jobs into after high school. So the 10th lesson I want to share with you all today is that we need to believe that anything is possible, because we can surprise ourselves and our family members can surprise us, and science is catching up with us. Anything is possible. And the final point I want to make today for a few minutes is something that I felt for a long time, but only in the last 3 or 4 years have I been able to put words to it. Um, Rare disease is hard, and the challenges that come with it are very hard. But what I discovered through my experience with my son and so many other families like ours is that a rare disease also may bring some unanticipated, unexpected consequences that to me sometimes feel like rare gifts. In my own experience with as a dad, um, my son had a number of rare gifts. I'm going to share a couple of them with you now. And I've learned and seen so many other children and adults demonstrate these gifts to the world that are very unusual gifts. The first one is um, perspective. How many people do you know who can enter a room and without saying a word, everybody else's big problems get small really fast? Um, our kids and adults offer the gift of perspective to other people. This is my son's high school graduation. And you see from the looks on the other faces, those kids look a little bored or maybe washed out from the party the night before. And there comes Jack with his beaming smile on his face, just thrilled to be there. This is a huge college arena at the University of Delaware where the high school had its graduation. And 300 graduates came marching in, and Jack came driving in. And everybody in the building noticed Jack, and he offered that gift of perspective, as many of our family members do, to others, to appreciate what we have and to appreciate every single day. He offered that gift to me, and he continues to offer that gift to others through his memory. A second gift that our family members offer is the gift of resilience. Again, we're often told what isn't going to be possible, and we need to focus on what is possible. Our kids and our family members are strong and resilient human beings and often bounce back from adversity over and over again. This is a symbol of resilience. Jack came out of the hospital when he was very little, one of his first serious hospitalizations. And I was afraid he wasn't strong enough to drive his little chair. He started driving his chair when he was about 3. I got him into his chair. This is the day he came home from the intensive care unit. And all he wanted to do was play with his blocks. He couldn't pick up blocks like little kids could do, but he could knock down those big cardboard blocks. So there he is knocking down those cardboard blocks, and then I would set him up and he knocked them down again, and I'd set him up and he knocked them down again. And after about 150 times, he was fine, but I was the one who was tired. Jack and many others like him that I've encountered along the way in my work give the gift of modeling resilience. Another rare gift that I have seen my son contribute and so many others is the gift of being pioneers. Families like ours have to do things a different way. And we have to be creative, we have to adapt, we have to think out of the box in order to get things done, like the way Jack did his eye gaze to do his math homework. He was the first one in his school to ever use technology like that, the first one in his job to ever use technology like that. Our family members are often the first to try something new at school or at work, the first to try a new medication. It takes courage to enter a clinical trial and try a medication that no one's tried before, or to be in a placebo group unknowingly. It takes courage to put ourselves out there and to make these adaptations, to take these risks, and to pioneer new things that not only help our own family member, but then help others. I'm so proud that there's a little boy at Jack's school who's now using the eye gaze technology that he taught his teachers how to use. So our kids and our family members are often pioneers and give the gift of being pioneers. This is a symbol of true pioneering and a way for me to honor the camp that Jack went to in the summer called the Pennsylvania Vent Camp. He needed a ventilator to qualify some special kids and special people in the woods in Pennsylvania. And this is Jack going down the zip line with his ventilator hanging there. And the ventilator company called when they saw this picture and were interested in having Jack be a marketing person because they were trying to convince everybody that their ventilator was portable, and Jack being on a zip line gave new meaning to portability. So this is a symbol of the gift of being pioneers. Another gift that our family members give when we have rare disease, despite all these challenges, is our kids, especially our kids, attract others who have compassion. My son was a magnet for open-hearted, compassionate people who make the choice to get involved. As I said before, none of us choose rare disease. I didn't choose this life for my son or for myself all those years ago. But Nurse Stacy, who I showed you before, made the choice to take care of him for 9 years. Jack was a magnet for open-hearted, compassionate people, and some of the best people I know and are my best friends I would not have met if Jack had not had a rare disease. I wish he hadn't, but the fact that he did made him a magnet for people with wonderful open hearts. I included this picture, especially today, as a symbol of the way that our family members have the gift of drawing open-hearted people into our lives. Nurse Stacy's down on the bottom row there in the middle. This is a photograph that was taken 2 years ago in a week. I guess it would have been about October the 12th or so, a week after Jack's passing. 2 years ago, I invited all of his nurses, past and present, home care nurses, to come to the home where they took care of Jack and to be together and have dinner with us and to bless his bedroom and to share memories. These are wonderful, open-hearted, compassionate people who made the choice to be in Jack's life and to serve others who need help. They don't make a lot of money. They work like Stacy, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. in the middle of the night. Nobody sees them. They're by themselves. This is very unusual for them to be together because they were there one at a time for all those years. But our kids attract others who have compassion and who have open hearts. And I actually talked to Nurse Ibrahim, who's standing next to me in that picture today, just to acknowledge this Jack's passing 2 years ago and the gift that he gave Jack by being with him so many nights as a night nurse. Our kids attract others who have compassion and make the choice to get involved. And finally, I'll finish with this gift. Our kids and adults, Jack lived to 26, who are affected by rare disease, bring out the best in all of us. Everybody who crossed my son's path, he brought out the best in them. And that was good for his mental health and good for mine too, to see people rally, to see people smile, to see people have an appreciation for the gift of every day. And certainly as a dad, I feel that my son brought out the best in me as a dad for the 26 years that I had the gift of having him here with me. And 2 years later, to the day of Jack's passing, I'll share with you, this is very personal today, that I feel more gratitude than grief. Gratitude for the 26 years we had together after being told he would only live for one. Our kids bring out the best in us. Our adults bring out the best of us. And these are very special gifts that many people don't have. So I'm honored to have been here today to share these lessons with you about how I've navigated this journey as a dad and as how I help others navigate this journey as a practicing psychologist who now focuses on supporting the needs of families like yours and mine. And I feel privileged to do the work I do. And Louise, I'm very thankful. It's a coincidence that this was the date that you asked me to make this presentation. And this is, I think, where Jack wanted me to be today. And I appreciate the opportunity to share both personal and professional reflections on especially this day. And I hope this has been helpful to your community as a professional who supports the mental health of communities like yours. I hope this presentation has been helpful.